Hello everyone. What really happened in those final hours before BTS left New York? Why did the atmosphere suddenly feel heavier, more emotional, almost like something unforgettable was coming to an end? And most importantly, what did fans witness in those last fleeting moments with Jungkook and the rest of the members before they boarded their flight back to Korea? New York had just experienced something extraordinary. For days, the city was alive with the presence of BTS. Streets echoed with chants, venues filled with anticipation, and every corner of social media exploded with clips, photos, and emotional reactions from ARMY across the globe. It wasn't just a visit. It felt like a takeover, a moment where the world paused and all eyes turned toward one group. And then, just like that, it was time to say goodbye. The moment news began circulating that BTS would be departing from New York, fans immediately rushed to the airport. Some had been waiting for hours. Others dropped everything just to catch a final glimpse. It didn't matter how long they had to stand or how crowded it became. This was the last chance, the final moment before the group disappeared from the American spotlight once again. The energy at the airport was different from the chaotic excitement of their arrival. This time, it felt softer, more emotional. There were still screams, still flashes of cameras, but underneath it all was a quiet sadness. A realization that something special was ending. When BTS finally appeared, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. The members walked together, surrounded by security, yet somehow still connected to the fans who had gathered. They waved, smiled, and acknowledged the crowd, even as they continued moving forward. Their expressions carried a mix of exhaustion and gratitude, evidence of the intense days they had just experienced. But it was Jungkook who drew the most attention. Dressed casually, yet effortlessly captivating, he stepped forward with a calm presence that immediately sent fans into a frenzy. His every movement was followed, every gesture captured. And yet, there was something different about him that day. Fans noticed it instantly. There was a softness in his eyes, a subtle emotion that hinted at everything he might have been feeling in that moment. The overwhelming love, the pressure, the memories created in such a short time. It was all there, hidden just beneath the surface. As he waved to the crowd, some fans began to cry. And then, something unexpected happened. Jungkook paused. For a brief second, he slowed down, turning slightly toward the fans as if trying to take in the moment just a little longer. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't planned. But it was enough to send a wave of emotion through the entire crowd. Phones shook. Voices cracked. The atmosphere shifted. Was he saying goodbye in his own quiet way? No one could say for sure. But the impact was undeniable. Behind him, the other members continued walking, each carrying their own expressions, their own emotions. Some smiled brightly, trying to keep the mood light. Others appeared more reflective, as if already processing the end of this chapter in New York. And then there was the security team. After what had happened during previous public appearances, the intense crowd surge, the moment when boundaries were pushed too far, security was tighter than ever. Among them stood the now widely discussed figure, Mr. Lee, calm, focused, and alert. He moved with precision, his eyes scanning every detail of the surroundings. The viral moment from earlier, where he had firmly intervened to protect Jungkook from an overwhelming crowd, was still fresh in everyone's minds. But today, his presence carried something more. It wasn't just about control anymore. It was about closure. As the group approached the entrance, fans began calling out louder, their voices overlapping in a desperate attempt to be heard one last time. Jungkook, don't go. Come back soon. The words echoed through the space, raw and emotional. Jungkook turned his head slightly again, offering one final wave. And in that moment, it felt like time slowed down. For the fans, this was everything. For BTS, this was just another departure, but one that carried the weight of everything they had just experienced. As they moved further inside, the distance between them and the fans grew. The cheers became echoes. The figures that once felt so close began to fade into the controlled environment of the airport interior. But the story didn't end there. Inside, away from the public eye, there were still moments unfolding, moments that only a few glimpses would later reveal. Clips began circulating online shortly after, short, shaky videos. Blurry images, but powerful enough to ignite conversations across the internet. One clip showed Jungkook briefly adjusting his mask, his expression unreadable, yet deeply felt. Another captured a member placing a hand on another's shoulder, a small gesture, but one that spoke volumes about their bond. Fans analyzed every detail. Was Jungkook emotional? Were the members tired? Was there something bigger behind this sudden departure? Speculation spread rapidly. Some believed the quick return to Korea hinted at upcoming projects, possibly something massive being prepared behind the scenes. Others thought it was simply the natural end of a tightly scheduled visit. But regardless of the reason, one thing was clear: this departure mattered, because it wasn't just about leaving a city. It was about closing a chapter. New York had been more than just a destination for BTS. It had been a stage for their return to the American spotlight, a place where they reconnected with fans after time apart, and a space where unforgettable moments were created in rapid succession. From exclusive performances to viral public appearances, every second had contributed to a narrative that fans would not soon forget. And now, it was over. As news spread that BTS had officially boarded their flight, social media erupted once again. Hashtags trended worldwide. Fans shared their favorite moments from the New York trip. Photos, videos, emotional messages. It all poured out in a collective wave of reflection. Some celebrated the memories. Others expressed their sadness. Many simply said one thing: come back soon. Meanwhile, somewhere above the clouds, BTS was already on their way back to Korea. Away from the noise, away from the flashing cameras, back to a place where the next chapter would begin. But even as the distance grew, the connection remained. Because what happened in New York wasn't just a series of events. It was a moment in time. A moment where millions of people around the world felt something together: excitement, joy, tension, emotion, and ultimately, longing. The longing to see them again, the longing for what comes next. And perhaps that's what makes this story so powerful. Not the arrival, not the performances, not even the departure itself, but the feeling it leaves behind. A feeling that lingers long after the plane is taken off. A feeling that reminds everyone why BTS continues to hold such an extraordinary place in the hearts of millions. Because even in a simple goodbye, they managed to create something unforgettable. The aircraft doors had already closed, and somewhere high above the Atlantic, BTS was leaving behind the dazzling skyline of New York, a city that had just witnessed yet another unforgettable chapter in their journey. But even as the physical distance between BTS and their fans grew, the emotional connection seemed to intensify, spreading rapidly across continents, time zones, and millions of hearts that refused to let the moment in so easily. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere was vastly different from the chaos they had just left behind. The noise, the flashing lights, the overwhelming chants of army, all of it faded into a quiet hum of the aircraft. It was in these rare, silent moments that reality often settled in. For Jungkook, this silence may have felt both comforting and heavy. Just hours earlier, he had been surrounded by thousands of voices calling his name. Cameras followed his every move, capturing even the smallest expressions. But now, there was space to breathe, space to think, space to feel everything that had happened in such a short span of time. And what a whirlwind it had been. From the moment BTS arrived in New York, the city had transformed into a stage. Every appearance became a headline. Every movement sparked discussions. Every glance was analyzed. Their presence wasn't just noticed, it dominated global attention. Fans replayed clips of Jungkook's airport appearance over and over again. That brief pause, that subtle turn, that final wave. It had become more than just a gesture. It had become a symbol of something deeper, something unspoken yet universally understood.